Good morning, it's Monday the 14th of November and I have got a brand new co-host for the day. Look at him, delighted so he is.
Just amazed I'm up this early.
Just happy to be here, aren't you? So good. He's resisted weekday for so long and we said, come on.
Oh, thanks.
Anton Savage, good morning.
Good morning, Marin. How are you? Over the next 3 hours, we're going to be keeping you entertained with Formula 1, food and Frisbee.
Indeed, from the Rugby World Cup to Formula 1, she's covered some of TV's biggest sporting events. McKenzie will be checking in just a little while.
And ground control to Major Tom, we speak to the Irish scientist whose mission in life is to get to space. Dr. Niamh Shaw will be joining us after 9 o'clock.
I mean, you got to have goals. And
it's a good one.
Space, it's a pretty good one. If Jeff Bezos is your mate, you're grand. He just takes you up at the weekend. And shortly we examine how the cost of living crisis could be contributing to a rise in break-ins and thefts.
Meanwhile, Derek is standing by with an update on today's weather. How's it looking, Derek?
Yes, good morning, team. That overnight rain tracking northeastwards at the moment and out there this Monday now. It really is that kind of mixture of sunshine and scattered showers up from the southwest later. Quite windy too and quite cold tonight, especially for the west and into the south. But guys, we'll come down here to the grounds of Gonzaga College, Ranelagh South County Dublin, because we're off to meet the Irish Ultimate Frisbee team. Yes, it is a sport and we're going to be giving it a go later on this morning. Anton and Muireann, how are your Frisbee skills, guys?
I mean,
we'll have a couple of throws later on.
We're mad for the bee, aren't we?
Can I start the morning in a way that'll be really deeply annoying? Do you know where Frisbee comes from?
Oh, here we go. Oh, he's out Anton savaging himself and it's at 7 a.m. Where does it come from, Anton?
It was a bakery and the pie dishes had Frisbee Bakery written on them and people used to play with them after they ate the pies.
Was this in America?
Yes.
There we go. Look at that. Wealth of knowledge.
And I'm finished.
All day by. He's done his work. He's given us Frisbee for the day. There's more of that gold on the way. But right now, let's go over to the Virgin Media News Hub. Here is Hannah Murphy.
Thanks, Muireann, and good morning. Avian influenza or bird flu has been detected among a flock of turkeys in County Monaghan. Disease control measures have been introduced around the premises, which is near the County Fermanagh border. Poultry movement will be restricted to prevent the bird flu spreading to other flocks in the run-up to a busy Christmas period. The H5N1 infection can cause serious disease in birds, but the risk to humans is considered to be very low. Gardaí have been questioning a man in his 30s in connection with the death of a woman in County Meath. The body of the 30-year-old woman was discovered at an apartment at Riverwalk Court in Rathoath on Saturday evening. The man was taken to Ashbourne Garda Station after being arrested at the scene. A technical examination has been completed, while Gardaí have been carrying out door-to-door inquiries. A post-mortem has also been carried out, and Gardaí say the results of that will determine the course of their investigation. A Garda member is in a critical condition in hospital after a crash in County Cork yesterday evening. An unmarked patrol car was helping with a breakdown on the N25 Youghal bypass when it was hit with another vehicle. A Garda member at the scene suffered serious injuries and was taken to Cork University Hospital. The driver of the other vehicle is said to have non-life-threatening injuries. Gardaí are appealing for witnesses who were travelling along the route between 6:30 and 7 o'clock yesterday evening to come forward. They say the Youghal bypass on the N25 will be closed until around midday while a forensic examination takes place. Several cost of living supports announced in September's budget will be paid from this week. They include a €400 fuel allowance, which will be paid to over 370,000 people. More than 230,000 people will receive a €200 living alone allowance, and a €500 disability support grant is also due to be paid from this week. The Vice President of Turkey claims an explosion which killed at least 6 people appears to have been a terrorist act. The blast at a popular pedestrian area in Istanbul also wounded 81 people, including 2 who are said to be in a serious condition. The country's interior minister has told reporters that a person has now been arrested. The incident has been described as a treacherous attack.
Whatever is necessary will be done. They will be handed over to the court. Whatever the price is, it will be accounted for. Turkey is not the old Turkey. Let everyone know this.
World leaders are gathering on the Indonesian island of Bali for the first G20 summit since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. US President Joe Biden has arrived and is due to hold his first face-to-face talks with China's president on the eve of the summit today.
A massive security operation is coming into effect on the Indonesian island of Bali. Leaders from the world's 20 largest economies set to meet on the island in the coming days. Topics including global health and energy transition on the agenda, under the hopeful theme of recover together, recover stronger. Russia's war in Ukraine, as well as growing tensions between China and the West, however, are expected to be to the fore. Joe Biden is already there. Ahead of the talks, the US president will today meet with China's President Xi Jinping for their first in-person meeting. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has also arrived in Bali. He's leading the Russian delegation instead of President Vladimir Putin, who is not attending. Marie Mulcahy, Virgin Media News.
Ukraine's president claims investigators have documented more than 400 war crimes in parts of Kherson after Russian troops withdrew on Friday. Moscow denies intentionally targeting civilians. There are warnings that the region still remains dangerous and officials are working to restore water and energy supplies. Despite those struggles, residents celebrated the Russian retreat on the streets over the weekend, raising the Ukrainian flag in public spaces. And staying in Ukraine, a painting by British graffiti artist known as Banksy has appeared on the wall of a severely damaged building outside of Kyiv. Banksy posted photos on social media of the artwork, which shows a gymnast doing a handstand. The town was the target of shelling and fighting in the early stages of the invasion. Another mural appeared of a small boy doing a judo throw on a man.
For car insurance, van insurance or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
Thank you, Will, and a very good morning to you at home or if you're indeed streaming online on the Cllr. We're coming to you live here from the grounds of Gonzaga College in South County Dublin because we're off to meet the Ranelagh Ultimate Frisbee team. So we're going to be testing our catch and throwing skills right across the morning. So that's all to come into the next hour. Anyway, let's take an opening look at weather together now this 14th of the month with Mark Armstrong on cameras. And it is quite a wet start, especially through parts of Ulster and into northern Leinster at the moment. That band of overnight showers now begin to feed in a northeasterly direction, pushing out that rain up around and into the Irish Sea. And in behind, a lot drier underneath that cloud cover out there this morning. Still quite dark, so a bit of a struggle in terms of those bright spells. And it will pick up in terms of those winds later on today, moderate to locally fresh and strong through the northeast. Now, as we feed our way through the day, we'll get a bit of a breather from that rain. We're going to see some sunny spells for a time, but cloud building then from the southwest towards late afternoon into early evening, really dragging with it more showers. Top values out there today of about 9 to 12 degrees. And in fact, those winds very pacey, quite fresh to strong and locally gusty through the southeast. Finally then tonight, again, it's going to be quite a wet, quite a windy start as once again that rain tracks in a northeasterly direction. Those winds moderating, easing back as they veer from the southwest into, or southeast into a westerly direction. Quite cold as well, 1 to 3 from Munster and into Connacht, 5 to 6 elsewhere. So that's how it's shaping up here in Ranelagh, South County Dublin at the moment. We'll catch you back live, 7:35.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline, calls mount for inquiry into abuse at Spiritan schools. It details how pressure for an inquiry into sexual abuse at schools run by the Spiritan Order is mounting, with opposition politicians joining calls by victims for an inquiry.
New laws to ban sale of vaping products to under 18s. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. The sale of e-cigarettes and vaping products to under 18s is set to be banned.
The Examiner leads with up to €50,000 grant for vacant properties. Grants of up to €50,000 are to be extended to all vacant properties across the country in a bid to bring as many unoccupied buildings back into use as family homes.
Christmas dinners at risk after avian flu outbreak. Fears were raised last night for this year's Christmas dinner after cases of bird flu were found on a turkey farm. It's the top story on the Daily Mail.
The Mirror goes with Garda fights for life after car smash. A Garda was fighting for his life in hospital last night after a car smashed into his patrol vehicle.
The Star runs with I dreamed I killed her. The man held by Gardaí over the killing of Ioana Mihala Pakala told her friend he dreamed he killed Ioana and woke up to find her dead. The Herald goes with that same story as well.
And the Sun leads with United have betrayed me. Cristiano Ronaldo revealed he feels betrayed by Manchester United in an interview with upstanding individual Piers Morgan.
Coming up, from Ireland's lacklustre triumph to Man United's hard-fought win, we're going to be rounding up the weekend's sporting action.
We'll see you very shortly. Welcome back now. Anton, did you know it was another busy weekend in sport?
I believe so.
It was, yeah. Every Monday morning, another busy weekend in sport.
Good time for sport the weekend.
It
Here
is.
to break it all down is the 42.IE's Gavin Cooney. Morning, Gavin.
Morning, all.
Good morning. We're actually going to go to kind of a big interview that is happening in sport that's getting a lot of headlines today. Somehow, Piers Morgan, like 4 people watch his television show or something, and he's managed to get a scoring interview with Cristiano Ronaldo that does set to be ruffling a few feathers.
It does seem to be the culmination of a kind of a years-long sycophancy campaign on behalf of Piers Morgan and Cristiano Ronaldo. But it works.
As you said. Yeah.
This is how television works.
Let's take a look
incredible.
at a clip from the interview with Piers Morgan.
They're trying to force you out. Yes, not only the coach, but the other 2 or 3 guys there around the club.
At the senior executive level.
Yes, that I felt betrayed.
And you think they're trying to get rid of you?
Honestly, I shouldn't say that, I don't know, but listen, I don't care, people should listen the truth. Yes, I feel betrayed, and I felt that some people that don't want me here, not only this year, but last year too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is him just saying goodbye to Manchester United.
This is it. Yeah, he's taken a blow. He's going to be out the door in January. There's no way he comes back from this. Elsewhere in the interview, he says he has no respect for the manager Eric Ten Hag. So it's incredible, like this club legend, one of the greatest players ever, taking a blowtorch to his relationship with the club.
And also culturally for that club, because Ferguson in his day was so strong on you do not say a dicky bird. You don't even celebrate, like the fight between him and Beckham over the nature of his celebrations, because they weren't to the team, they were to the corner flag.
Yeah.
This?
Well, I mean, it's not my original point, but if Roy Keane had given his interview to Piers Morgan rather than MUTV, it at least might have got out there, you know. But this is extraordinary. And for Ronaldo to talk about feeling betrayed and feeling forced out of the club in the summer, he spent all the summer trying to leave. So it's quite sad. It's quite a sad end to a great United career for Ronaldo, because there's no way back from this now.
No, he's made the decision that he's going to leave, and he wants them. He's like, okay, he wants to be sold.
Totally, and he did talk elsewhere in the interview about all that's wrong about United, how it's not moved on since the time of Alex Ferguson, and he's completely right.
Yep.
And he talked about all the mistakes that have been made. But the tragic irony of it all is that he is one of the mistakes that has been made. Like, had the club been in the 21st century and had moved on post-Ferguson, they wouldn't have signed him, because, you know, it was kind of a nostalgia trip that was as much for commercial reasons as it was for sporting reasons. So, he's going to jet off to the World Cup for this weekend, but you would imagine that he's played his last game for Man United.
And where does he go? He's 37 years old. He's still Ronaldo, and I'm sure that there will be teams vying to get him, but he does have a bigger than the team personality.
Yeah, and I mean, he did want to leave during the summer. He wanted to go to a Champions League club, and they couldn't find one for him. So he turned down a mega money deal to Saudi Arabia, because it's not exactly the cutting edge of sporting competition at the moment. So so I mean, maybe he'll go there.
This is the bit that I don't get. From his own personal perspective, he doesn't gain from this. Nobody says, "Oh, well, I didn't like Ronaldo. I do now that he's whinging." And if you're going to whinge, why whinge on Piers Morgan where nobody will see it?
I don't get it, to be honest. Now, maybe people will say, when he talks about, you know, I love Manchester United, and he did quote Picasso at some point and say, you know, if you want to remake it, you have to destroy it, and if they have to destroy me, that's fine. So portraying himself as some kind of martyr for Manchester United, maybe that's what he thinks he's doing, but it doesn't wash, because United are moving on without him, and we saw that against Fulham last night.
Because let's look at that. He obviously hasn't been around for the last 2 games, and there has been a certain irony that, you know, a young fella from Argentina has been involved in assists in order for Manchester United to be back on sort of winning ways.
Yeah, and it's Alejandro Garnacho.
What you make of what Cristiano Ronaldo has done? 0896 111 at 111. We're going to move to home now, and it was the FA Cup final, resounding victory for Derry City.
Derry City 4, Shelbourne 0. It's the most one-sided cup final result in over 100 years of history. Like, if Shells were going to win, they had to probably play above themselves, and Derry didn't have to hit their levels. Unfortunately, neither of those things happened. Shells really struggled. Shane Farrell, you'll see, gets beat there on the right wing. He probably wasn't fit. They rushed him back. So 4-0 for Derry. It was men against boys, unfortunately. Shells didn't even have a shot on target. Damien Duff did say afterwards that maybe the emotion of the occasion and just the sheer size of the occasion got to Shells a little bit, and that they'll be back. They had a really good season, but disappointing at the end.
One bit of that's it's unfortunate to have to mention, but I found myself on Sunday standing in a Northside dart station, and on the far side of the platform was all parents and little kids in the Shells gear, and I thought, nice way to spend a Sunday afternoon with the kids. Unfortunate then that the kids got to see the scenes that happened after that match.
Yeah, so there was squabbling among minority of Shells fans in their own end, and then there was you know, stupid violence before the game, again outside a pub in Ringsend, same pub that had been witness to violence from minority fans last year. So, I mean, the FAI and the clubs are doing really well to make this a showpiece occasion, make it the showpiece occasion that it should be. And 32,000 people there yesterday. But those actions of what are a tiny minority really do mark. I mean, there's newspaper headlines about them today, and rightly so. I'm looking at a picture there of them on the back of the Herald. But, you know, it's the actions of those minorities that will shout loudest. So I think the club should come out and the FAI should come out with some strong condemnation of them.
Completely. It's such a shame, as you mentioned, like getting kids involved, like really getting involved in Irish soccer. It's what we want to see. It is such a shame. We're going to move on very quickly. Ireland, lacklustre, that's all everyone's saying. But sure, listen, they won.
Yeah, they won, I suppose,
against Fiji in the rugby.
Lacklustre, I think, you know, there was a banging kind of second day Christmas turkey off this game, I have to say, especially when the...
Not to be said for the second day Christmas turkey.
Not this year. That's going to be take your life in your hands this year.
When the Mexican wave was going around with 10 minutes to go, you're thinking, well, maybe this isn't quite as good as the South Africa game. Ireland were, you know, they won, I suppose, but they were very, very clumsy in attack. Loads of unforced errors.
Yeah.
And, you know, Fiji were down to 13 men at one point, and Andy Farrell gave quite a withering assessment afterwards. So
he did.
Yeah, which was interesting. You do wonder about Ireland's depth. Like, I mean, we saw them well beaten by an All Blacks 15 last week at the RDS and struggling against Fiji this week. But you know, it's the age-old truism. Like, if Johnny Sexton's not there, Ireland drop off quite a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the All Blacks. Do we need to look at the All Blacks' victory? I'm sorry to say this, but do we need to look at it through a different lens, given how well Scotland performed, at least in the early stages against them?
I don't know. I mean, we knew that winning that tour that's not a vintage All Blacks, but still, I mean, they lose so rarely on home soil. It was an incredible result for Ireland. So I don't really want to relitigate that, because God, it made us all feel so good. But look,
yes,
I mean, like this game and that game at the RDS last week do raise questions about Ireland's depth going into the World Cup, which, you know, maybe for a country of our size we'll always have.
And really quickly, one sentence on Pádraig Harrington, major win for him in his career in America.
On the Champions Tour, 4th win on his maiden season on the Champions Tour. He's tearing it up. He's too young to be on the Champions Tour.
That's what it is, tearing it up. He won, it's like a career best or something like that.
Yeah, 65.
Lowest ever score.
7 under,
Yeah, fair play to him. Gavin Cooney from the 42.ie, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Coming up, we're going to discuss a recent report that linked the cost of living crisis to burglaries and thefts. You're welcome back. Now, the Garda Commissioner has recently linked the cost of living crisis with an increase in burglaries around the country.
Here to discuss more about Gardaí in rural Ireland and what needs to be done, we are joined by Galway Councillor Mary Hoade and journalist Robin Schiller. Thank you both so much for being with us today. Robin, can we talk about what Drew Harris said last week? Because he did directly equate the rise in burglaries and thefts to the cost of living crisis. So have they risen hugely?
They have actually quite significantly. So those figures were given in his monthly report to the Police Authority. And you know, once a month he kind of updates them on topics within the force and crime trends. One particular one that stuck out was property crime. So this includes burglaries and thefts from shops. Now, they've gone up. It's no real surprise. The previous 12 months, we would have had COVID restrictions. More people would have been at home. There would have been restrictions on shops. But in particular, he said that since April of this year, they seem to have reached a 5-year high and have gone up by about 40%. And his comments were that, you know, that rise may be directly linked to high inflation and the cost of living crisis. So it's certainly the first time somebody's publicly stated that the current economic situation in this country is having a direct effect on crime rates. So
the suggestion being people are sitting at home thinking, well, I'm not going to make ends meet, I'll just go nick stuff.
That's what it seems to be. Now, obviously, not to excuse that, you know, this crime type does affect people. Shop owners have to earn their crust as well.
Yeah.
So to speak, it has a knock-on effect, but it certainly seems to be the situation where the economic hardships at the moment are having a direct effect on thefts from shops specifically.
Because that's gone 40% increase in thefts from shops. And did he mention, is this foodstuffs? Is this what's happening, that people they can't afford to live?
There wasn't any specific reason given for it. It just mentioned that it was because of the cost of living and high inflation. But you'd imagine it is because people are, you know, goods have gone up, diesel's gone up, petrol's gone up, electricity, household goods have gone up. So I imagine that's a direct correlation between thefts from shops where these kind of household items are sold they're being stolen because of these economic hardships people are facing.
Of course, the other side of it then is the increase in burglaries, which is in large part often a sort of a more organised thing with gangs going around the country to do it. Mary, this is something you have direct personal experience of, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. I suppose I myself was the victim 14 years ago of a burglary to my own home. And it certainly is a very, very difficult time when you feel that your own private space is invaded, whether it's your home, your business, or indeed there's a huge amount of theft from cars now parked in public places.
And were you there when it happened?
I wasn't there myself when it happened, but my husband did come back and find people in our home. So it was certainly very frightening. It's very challenging for anybody. As I say, it is a terrible violation of your own privacy to have your own home broken into.
What did he do when he came home and found them there?
Well, look, I suppose he came in and obviously he was quite frightened and raised the alarm and, you know, called the Gardaíes, which would be the normal thing that you would do. And thankfully those people were apprehended. But it is quite an invasion of your own personal space when that does happen.
Oh, and huge risk as well to stumble across them while they're there.
Huge risk, absolutely. And look, I suppose, in fairness, Robin has just said there that the difficulty is now there is more and more, and it's not just private houses and that are being done. You have a huge amount of businesses, but particularly you have theft from cars now is beginning to. Like only at this weekend in Galway, we had a number of cars that were broken into while people were in church. So,
okay, what are you hearing? You are a Fianna Fáil councillor
yes.
in Galway. This year, some of the horrific cases that we heard, you know, in Sligo of gangs going in, beating people, tying them up, like it's horrific violence. Are you hearing from constituents that they are worried about this? Like, what's the feeling?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But there is a huge amount of fear out there. And at the same time, we don't want people to be living in fear. People need to be able to live in their own homes and feel secure. I think one of the things that, you know, and I'm a member of the Joint Policing Committee in our own local authority. There are joint policing committees in every local authority throughout the country. But I think it's important that we go back to the whole area of more Gardaí on the beat. And one of the things that I have been consistently advocating for is more Gardaí on the beat. Like, while there are additional Gardaí as a result of the budget this year, what we've got to realise now is that an awful lot of Gardaí are operating in the protected services section, in cybercrime, in communications. We need to start looking at the old model of policing on the street, where you can actually see, where you can visually see a policeman walking up and down on the beat.
Although it's hard to see how that has an effect on burglaries, because if a gang is going to go to an urban area or even go out into the rural Ireland, the statistical chances of a guard walking by at the time at which they're going to rob your house.
No, but the presence certainly there. The presence does mean, like, a presence will certainly deter it. And it would be remiss of me not to compliment the Gardaí, because they are doing an excellent job, I think, with the limited amount of resources that are available there. But I certainly do feel, and one of the things that we are strongly advocating for, a lot of rural stations have been closed as well. You know, and I think the opening up of some more rural stations and more presence in the area is definitely a big thing.
OK, we'd love to hear from people on that. If you are in a rural area, do you think that there are any guards? Do you feel like you're protected in any way? 089 611 111. But Robin, is there not, obviously a few years ago, because of austerity, there was a moratorium on Gardaí and recruitment Gardaí. They've said that they're going to try to recruit more. There's an issue.
There's a serious issue. I think, you know, the figure given for this year, the government wants to recruit 800 Gardaí. They've put around 200 into and out of Templemore, which is a serious shortfall in the budget.
200? They wanted 800, 200 have come through Templemore.
And then for next year in the budget was announced that they want 1,000 Gardaí for next year. The shortfall this year won't be made up next year by the looks of it, so I don't know where the 1,000...
And they're losing guards out of the force.
They're losing, and that's the other issue. You know, there's a serious issue with morale, talking to people on the ground in the force at the moment. It's not just recruiting new guards, it's also retaining the current guards. I think the latest figure was that there's around 400 Gardaí who've resigned from the force since 2018.
So that's not retirement, that's resigning?
That's just resigning. Retirement, obviously a different issue altogether with age. But there was a 2-week period in August, I think, where you had nearly one guard resigning every single day. So there's a serious issue, not just with recruiting and getting the numbers in, but also keeping the people there, keeping the Gardaí there. And whether it's, you know, low morale, cost of living currently, pay, rosters, whatever it is, it has to be seriously looked at. And how...
So I'm assuming for some Gardaí in some urban centres, they can't afford to live.
Yeah, especially in the last few months, that would have been a serious issue. So it has to be looked at as why these Gardaí are leaving, what can be done to keep them. I don't think it's something that's actually actively happening at the moment, and certainly should be looked at to make sure we're not losing so many members. So
if Drew Harris outlined the nature of the problem and the increase in burglaries and thefts, did he go on to say what he intended to do about it?
Well, he did point out, in fairness, that, you know, the government is trying to hire X amount of Gardaí, and what they're doing, their efforts they're making. So they are trying as much. The recruitment process is more so down to the government, and they obviously then direct the numbers where they go to. But certainly we have that shortfall now this year, and that's expected to continue next year.
Mary, you're a member of Fianna Fáil. Have you spoken about this to party colleagues? Because
yes,
if we've got such an issue with recruitment...
Yes, indeed I have, and I concur with what has been said by Robin, but I think it's important to realise the budget did allow for some extra Gardaí this year. It's not enough, unfortunately. As I said there at the outset, I think the different policing model and the fact that more Gardaí are now being brought into the different sections, into the cybercrime, into the different areas, it does mean that we have less Gardaí again available to do the work. The budget did allow for an extra 1,000 Gardaí. It also allowed for an extra 400 civil servants to do some clerical work and to allow more Gardaí.
But the conditions are so bad that no one wants to be a Garda anymore.
Absolutely, and that has to be addressed. And I have spoken to our own government in relation to that. That has to be addressed, because we cannot have a situation whereby people do not want to join the force. And, you know, I mean, we need to look at that very clearly. I have spoken to our own government in relation to that, and they are looking at that, because it's not, you know, if we cannot get the Gardaí, therefore we're not going to be able to deliver the service. It's as simple as that. We are going to have to make it more attractive for people to want to join the Gardaí.
And to stay in when they do.
And to stay in, yes, absolutely.
Mary, thank you very much, Mary. Robin, much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. 0896 111 111 if you've indeed been a victim of crime, if you've been involved in the Gardaí, we'd love to hear from you this morning. Now, after the break, the Irish Independent's Kevin Doyle will be delving into some of the major stories that are making the morning papers. We'll talk to you shortly.
Well, you're welcome back. Joining us now with the roundup of what's making the news in this morning's papers is Group Head of News at the Irish Independent, Kevin Doyle. Morning, Kevin.
Morning, guys.
Good morning. Now, we're going to start today with vaping products, because it was so, for a few years there, you weren't seeing any teens out smoking at all. It was like, oh my God. And the next thing, vapes are everywhere.
Everywhere. And it's become a huge problem, actually. It's kind of amazing, because it's like a lot of these things that are, inverted commas, new, they're not that new anymore.
Yeah.
But we see it with social media, we see it with all sorts of computer things, and you see it with vaping, whereby industry went around the problem. So you ban cigarettes, you restrict what kids can do with television and other things, and industry goes around it. And that's exactly what's happened with vaping, because there are, and I think a lot of parents would be surprised to hear it, there is no law stopping a 13, 14-year-old from walking into a shop this morning and buying some bubblegum flavoured vape.
Is there not?
No.
Nothing.
I never looked into it, but I always assumed it was the same as cigarettes. There's no age limit. You can just walk in and vape.
Yeah, and I imagine that's an assumption that a lot of parents would make, is that there is something similar restricting. They contain nicotine, albeit obviously not at the same levels as cigarettes, but they have been, it's marketing genius, because what they have effectively done is it's a way to get off cigarettes. But what they aren't telling you is, and a lot of health experts would argue this, that on the flip side, it's a way for younger people to actually get on to, they start on nicotine and then they move up to the
But even if they don't,
harder
it's an
stuff.
addictive substance. You're saying to a 13-year-old, here you go, feel free to get yourself addicted to this.
Yeah.
And not just that, but you're actually selling it as, you can buy gummy bear flavoured, bubble gum, chocolate, strawberry, banana, whatever you're into.
I think I saw one being like, it's lavender, it's calming.
Oh,
for anxiety
sounds lovely.
levels. I was like, hold on a second now. So the thing, I remember a few years ago when these started, like a long time ago, vapes have been around a long time, but they used to get sent into the radio station as, like, you know, CDs would be sent in, or, you know, they'd want people to promote it or whatever. It was really weird. I was like, they're sending in vapes, which is just cigarettes by another name.
There's a sense that they are less bad, significantly less bad for your health than cigarettes has been the assumption. Your front page story today, Kevin, says they're going to be banned for under 18s.
Yeah, so Stephen Donnelly, the health minister, is moving, and I think he's going to bring it through cabinet tomorrow, but obviously these things take a bit of time, so it'll be well into next year before we see any movement. But effectively, he wants to bring the law more in line with what we see with cigarettes. Now, some countries in Europe, like the Netherlands, have already done this, and there's big debates about whether or not it makes a difference. People always find ways. But I think logic would suggest it's the right thing to do. And there's also kind of a wider thing, because we know how strict tobacco advertising is. It's not quite the same in the area of vaping. You walk into any shopping centre around the country now, and there are vape stalls just set up in the main thoroughfare. You know, you go into a petrol station, you can't even see. You have to know that you want cigarettes. You won't be reminded by any signs or anything. So he wants to move a bit more in that direction as well, by banning what kind of shops can actually sell them and how they're regulated.
Oh, because they are relatively new, the medical evidence wasn't really there, but there is an awful lot of medical evidence now being compiled that they could be as bad as cigarettes.
Yeah, I think or
even worse, because the water in them with your lungs.
It can affect your lungs as well. It's a different, I suppose, the nicotine is a very particular type of thing that tars. There isn't as much evidence, of course, but you remember cigarettes were once the cool thing. Every movie, you weren't the bad guy in the movie without a cigarette in your mouth. And vaping has never quite become that, but definitely if you go out around the parks, around schools at lunchtime, you see an awful lot of kids are using them and arguably doing nothing wrong.
Because it's 15.5% of 15 to 16-year-olds are using e-cigarettes. They are vaping, so that's an issue there. So they are going to be banned to under 18s. Finally, something is being done. We'd love to hear from you this morning, 0896 111 111, because it's unusual to see a young person smoking now. Like
it is.
Unless it's weed.
I know this is the wrong thing to focus on, but the smell of the vape flavours, oh God, it's awful. Oh, it's awful. When you walk past a pub and you get hit by a wave, it's like, oh, it's terrible. It's just, sorry, this is my own personal foible. Meanwhile, the other big story is Christmas shopping. We have a sense of what the top 5 or 10 most desired toys are.
Yeah, and do you know what? I felt a little bit better for humanity this morning after reading this story, because they're all kind of things, Anton, that me and you have probably heard of. I expect it to be so uncool and so out of touch that it would be all stuff that was in the metasphere or something. But no,
any highlights jump out at you?
Top of the list is the PlayStation 5. Now, when I was young and you were young, it was the PlayStation 1, and I don't know how
we called it. The PlayStation.
The PlayStation. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not quite sure how they've only gotten to 5 multiple decades later, but here we are. We're at PS5, and that is, even though it came out in 2020 during lockdown, is the hot toy again this year. And if you haven't...
I assume they cost a small fortune now, though, do they?
Yeah, you're talking upwards of €500. And if you can't get one, they're now reselling online for extra money on top. So it's become, you know, the way match tickets often go for, slap 50 or 100 quid on top of those All-Ireland tickets. Well, something like that is happening with PlayStations online at the minute. But there is some hope, because Smiths are saying that later November or maybe early December they will get a new supply of them in. But at the moment, in Smiths, which I know is a shop a lot of, not to give them the free plug, but it's where a lot of people will be going and parents will be going. They have...
it's almost like Sony is using scarcity as a way to drive sales.
I wonder if that's a thing that happens in any way, shape or form.
Board games are coming back, though.
Yes, and apparently this is a result
It's our time to shine, Anton. Let's go analogue.
So apparently since lockdown, we've all got back into board games and jigsaws.
100%. During lockdown, we played loads of board games.
You didn't do a jigsaw, did you?
I didn't do a jigsaw. No, I didn't.
Jigsaws.
Yeah, I think they could be quite calming. But we did... Do you ever watch Taskmaster? I'm obsessed with Taskmaster. We did a Taskmaster board game over Zoom with mates. It was the best crack ever.
See what you did? You went old school and modern.
And modern
you're
at
literally
the same
in the
time.
metaverse. Yeah.
That was it. But is it like things like Monopoly and Guess Who and stuff?
Yeah, they haven't. There are all these newfangled board games, of course, with crazy plot lines and all the rest. But actually, it's the traditional stuff that people are getting back into, and it's probably parents who are locked down with kids, giving kids what they knew and probably what they had Scrabble somewhere in the back of a press that they pulled out. Now, this is about words and starting to explain. But yeah, it's board games are back, which is nice to see. And Lego is the other one that is actually up there with the PlayStation as the one. Now, it's Harry Potter Lego and it's variations.
The commercial tie-ins.
It's the commercial tie-ins with the Lego, but nonetheless, it is Lego, and it is Lego for boys and girls.
Have you done your shopping yet?
I don't want to talk about it. I was in a toy shop yesterday, Anton, and it was...
You look a bit shook.
Well, I'm not well this morning, to be honest.
You have our sympathy.
He's like, give me the politicians in Leinster House any time over doing that. We would love to hear from you this morning, whether you've done the Christmas shopping, what it is like that you're excited. Will you be doing board games at Christmas? I can see you doing a Death Star Lego.
Oh, I didn't know there was Death Star Lego.
There's a Death Star Lego, 100% on South Savage. Kevin Doyle from the Irish Independent, thank you so much for joining us. Plenty more on the way on Ireland AM after these. Now it's time to take a look at this morning's papers. We're going to start with the Irish Times. Its headline, calls mount for inquiry into abuse at Spirit in schools. It details how pressure for an inquiry into sexual abuse at schools run by the Spirit and Order is mounting, with opposition politicians joining calls by victims for an inquiry.
New laws to ban sale of vaping products to under-18s. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. The sale of e-cigarettes and vaping products to under-18s is set to be banned.
The Examiner leads with up to a €50,000 grant for vacant properties. Grants of up to €50,000 are expected to be extended to all vacant properties across the country in a bid to bring as many unoccupied buildings back into use as family homes.
Christmas dinners at risk after avian flu outbreak. Fears were raised last night for this year's Christmas dinner after cases of bird flu were found on a turkey farm, and that's the top story on the Daily Mail.
The Mirror goes with Garda fights for life after car smash. A Garda was fighting for his life in hospital last night after a car smashed into his patrol vehicle.
The Star runs with I dreamed I killed her. The man held by Gardaí over the killing of Ioana Mihala told her friend he dreamed he killed Ioana and woke up to find her dead. And the Herald goes with that same story.
And our thoughts, of course, are with all of Ioana's family and friends. The Sun leads with United have betrayed me. Cristiano Ronaldo reveals he feels betrayed by Manchester United in an interview with Piers Morgan. And we chatted about that earlier on, and he'll be going off to the World Cup and probably not coming back to Old Trafford afterwards. Now, we were chatting earlier on because there is a list of the 10 most wanted toys, which you, in a very cynical move, Anton Savage, think could be bleeding into hands for demand to be higher, for prices to be going up.
Well, just if you're Sony and if you've been making PlayStations for 50 years and if you have a fair sense of the demand profile, you'd think you'd make enough unless you wanted to give a sense of scarcity. Who am I to judge?
Wonder if that's
But Scrabble is back, which is nice.
Scrabble is back, which is... Would you do the old board games at Christmas?
Oh, God, no. Oh, no. The kind of person who says, time for Trivial Pursuit. It's like, I'll be outside in the rain.
See you later. Have you started the Christmas shopping?
No.
No. Has anyone in your house started the Christmas shopping?
Are you
sure?
Christmas shopping for me used to consist of I got you a packet of fags and some flowers out of the Esso. So I'm trying to get earlier, but it's still a struggle. What about you?
Jane, absolutely not. I'm definitely a night before person. I've learned from the past to start my Christmas shopping early. I usually begin in September and be finished by November. I couldn't be dealing with the stress of not being able to find what I'm looking for. Isn't it Black Friday? Is that a thing?
Yeah, Black Friday is the Friday after Thanksgiving. So I think Thanksgiving is the last Thursday of November. Yeah. So that's next Friday is Black Friday. And then also, Cyber Monday is after it, isn't it?
All a bit of a swizz?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, it makes sense in America where it's effectively Stevens' Day after Thanksgiving. But how it came across the water, I've never understood.
And also, hasn't it, which the magazine, the industry magazine is like, yeah, they kind of increase prices to bring them down so that you're not actually getting as many
But you see, obviously, the pictures, like you used to see them from the States where they'd open the doors and there is just riots as people go in.
It was crazy, absolutely crazy. How about Mary? Christmas is such a stressful time for many parents. My nerves are shot thinking about the possibility of not being able to find things that my children want with the cost of everything at the minute. We've had to stagger buying things and didn't have the luxury of buying everything early. The cost of living crisis is definitely going to have an effect.
Oh, God, yeah. And when you look at the price of toys, they're not cheap.
No, they do seem to have, it's very expensive now. So you are trying to go, hey, kids, here's a pack of cards. Wouldn't you love a pack of cards?
Right, exactly.
Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
It's the thought that counts. I thought about you. On vaping, Megan was on, teenagers are going to try whatever the latest fad is. For this generation, it's vapes. I know it's not ideal, but would you not rather that than your children having a cigarette?
I suppose it's just because the scientific knowledge is now going, this could be worse than cigarettes because it's basically will turn into a liquid in your lungs. So they're like, oh, it's not great. Anyway. We'd love to hear from you. 089 611 111. Now, after the break, it's pedal to the metal as Formula One presenter and journalist Lee McKenzie takes us inside Formula One.
But before all of that, fancy bagging yourself a new car? Well, you're in luck, as all this week we've teamed up with Toyota Ireland to give you the chance to win the Toyota Aygo Cross.
Take a look at this.
We've teamed up with Toyota Ireland to give you the chance to turn heads like a celebrity in the Toyota Aygo Cross, the compact crossover built for everyday life. For your chance to win, just call or text the numbers on screen and answer the question.
Now, our next guest has kept sporting fans entertained and informed of the Rugby World Cup, at Wimbledon and the Olympics, but she is probably most at home when she's surrounded by the roar of Formula One engines.
Please welcome Channel 4 Formula One broadcaster Lee McKenzie to the show. Morning, Lee. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you. Lovely to see you both.
It's lovely to have you here. I suppose the thing is, you have very much followed in your father's footsteps in your career, because your dad, Bob, he became a Formula One journalist, even though he was a different, were you expecting it? Did the love come from him?
Well, I was just the annoying child that turned up everywhere, at every press box. Because when you work out that if you go and watch sport and get to go to these things, you don't go to school, you don't go to brownies, you don't go to Sunday school, anything like that. It seemed like a great day out. And then you look around and you think, are all these people being paid to watch this? And then it's a no-brainer. Then you're like going straight in. You're like, yeah, if I can get paid to watch incredible events that other people pay to go to, that's impressive. And I think that's something that always stayed with me, no matter what I'm presenting. Everybody else there really has paid a lot of money to be there and is a huge fan. So the least I can do is show up and try and be good at my job.
And we're just looking at a picture there of you and David Coulthard side by side. You, I assume, have met, both when you were there with your dad and in your own capacity, all of the greats over the last probably, 20, 30 years?
Yeah, I didn't ever meet Ayrton Senna. My father went to his funeral. I'd love to have met Ayrton, but actually I know his family really well, and Bruno, his nephew who raced in Formula One, is a good friend of mine, and I know Vivian, Bruno's mum, who's Ayrton's sister. So I kind of really came into it mid-2000s. And the rest, I mean, I did have to go to school at some point, otherwise I would have been completely inarticulate. So yeah, I basically went to school, went to uni. I actually was a news journalist as well. I was told to be a good journalist, you had to be a good news journalist and then go into sport. So I did the Lockerbie trial, politics, general elections, which seemed a lot less fun than covering rugby and Formula One, to be perfectly honest, which is why I came back to all of that.
Doing something, I suppose, like Lockerbie, which is highly emotional, you know, broadcasting in Scotland, like that must have been quite harrowing to have to deal with on a nightly basis.
Yeah, that was. I did the trial at Camp Zeist, but also I remember I was at school when it happened. It's funny what you remember. I was playing the King Rat in the Pied Piper, and I was just furious that my father didn't turn up to see it. And he'd been sent to Lockerbie because actually from where I am in Scotland, I can see Northern Ireland on a clear day. So that trajectory is always planes coming over. They come up the middle of the UK, they cut over Lockerbie, they would come across Ayr, they would then, they skim the top of Northern Ireland. So it would have come across us. And I just had a real sort of connection with it, even from a very young age. So to be able to do the trial was quite cathartic, I think.
And you've certainly been, I suppose, in your career as well. You mentioned Ayrton Senna there and how you know his family, and that was such a huge tragedy because Formula One is incredibly dangerous. But for you, does it feel like, is there a family dynamic sort of going on? Because you travel together to so many races during the year. Like, are the teams and journalists, are you all on the same planes and everything?
Some of us are, yes. So, the people that were doing the Brazilian Grand Prix yesterday are now on a 7,200-mile flight to Abu Dhabi. Now, they will be big chartered planes that will just take everyone across. Sometimes I can try and jump on a private plane if I'm feeling brave. But what you do need to keep in mind is I am asking questions to people who have probably done something silly at some point of the season or crashed out or maybe just won. And I have a duty to ask those difficult questions. So that can be quite odd when we're all sitting together on a plane or in the same restaurants for dinner. But, I'm not paid to be their friends. That's what I've always tried. I've got a great relationship with the drivers, but hopefully that's built on respect because I always do have to ask the question. Otherwise, there's no point me traveling around the world if I'm just having a lovely time. And Fernando, who you can see there, is the perfect example of that because he is like a politician. He can be a tricky customer. He's got himself into a few scrapes in his time, but he loves it. It's like a sport for him. It's a little bit like an Eddie Jones in rugby. When you ask a question, he's like spoiling for the argument, which is quite fun, I think, sometimes.
And of course, for non-F1 fans, that's Fernando Alonso that you're referring to there. The one thing, though, where you talk about the questions that you're asking and them being somewhat political, Formula One in its recent trajectory, in the Bernie Ecclestone period through to now, it went from, I remember a story about Colin Chapman they said that there had to be a firewall between the driver and the fuel tank, and he pulled a map that he had used to get to France off the wall, spray painted it silver and tucked it in behind the driver to make it look like a metal firewall. We've gone from there to this being a multi-billion euro industry. There's big money in play for the manufacturers, for the engine companies, for the advertisers. Do you find the pressure of that? Do you find them trying to control the image a lot?
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, yes. I mean, I think it's always been like that, but more so now. I think what's quite interesting is, you know, I wouldn't have been able to write the book that I've written in 5-10 years' time, because everybody is out there on social media. You know, the people that are in this book, your Michael Schumachers, things like that, drivers like that, you know, there wasn't social media when these guys started. So in actual fact, we're seeing a lot more of all sportsmen and women, all athletes. We're learning an awful lot more of them because they're putting that out there for us to see. And I think that might be the thing that changes it, because they don't really want to be controlled, the athletes, anymore. Team bosses have a duty to maybe just sort of like toe the party line, because, you know, I do laugh when I hear them moan that their budgets have been restricted to $145 million a year. I mean, I don't have a massive amount of sympathy, but, you know, they do have to justify every penny that's spent, so much so that one team told me that they can't actually go to the awards ceremony this year because they can't afford a table at it.
Oh no, whatever are they going to do? They can't get that chicken.
Sad times.
But I'm just wondering, Lee, because, of course, with the programme Drive to Survive, which has really opened up the personalities behind it. Like, let's get rid of, you know, there's climate change issues with Formula One, there's all that kind of stuff. But like someone like Max Verstappen, we're seeing him now being like this petulant little fella sometimes going, you know, you just want to smack him and go, cop on and grow up. Yeah. Like, are they okay with that? Like, when Drive to Survive started and you saw the filming crews everywhere, how did you take to it? Because this involves you as well.
Well, the interesting thing from my point of view is that apparently, which we didn't know, that when we pick up our pass, that you put it round your neck and you walk into the paddock, we are fair game.
Okay.
They can film or put that big, massive boom that seems to always hit my head, and I'm not that tall, but they seem determined to like knock me out at some point because they always listen to your answers. Yeah, that's we can be in. We can, and it's caused a lot of problems because if you're just having a private conversation with the driver and that boom goes in, they can play out whatever you say. Interestingly, Max isn't in Drive to Survive. He refuses to be part of it. I think a couple of drivers have been a little bit sort of wary, because when does it become reality TV and when does it become a real reflection of what we're seeing? There is no doubt, though, that Drive to Survive has made Formula One as popular as it ever has been. We can see that 400,000 people every race weekend going to the track. It's incredible to see.
If this is the most popular era and the greatest global reach, let me ask you the question that I'm sure you get asked all the time. The best ever, are we talking Schumacher, Hamilton, is it Verstappen, is it Senna, is it Prost, who?
Well, what I would like to do is line them all up and get them in the modern day car, because the cars that we've seen even 10 years ago are not at all like the ones that we have now. I grew up as a Michael Schumacher fan. That was my era, I suppose. So when I got to know him and work with him, and there's a story in the book, I took a horse from the UK over to Switzerland to compete in the European Reining Championships, which I didn't actually know what it was, but, you know, being arrogant, I was absolutely sure in my mind I'd be fine at it. And I ended up on a podium in a Stetson and leather chaps alongside Michael, and I looked around and I thought, oh my gosh, I have watched this guy win 7 world titles. So I've always been a Michael fan.
This is wonderful, and there's so many great stories in the book Inside F1. I love that you mentioned there that you're standing there in leather chaps, and your father once had to run around Silverstone naked. Are you gonna ever see yourself do that, Lee?
No, and if I could erase that memory, I'd never see him do it either. But yes, that was a reasonably traumatic experience. But I think what we learned from that is never make a bet with someone live on air. So if I'm standing doing the rugby with Tommy, for example, and he says, you know, let's make a bet, who do you think will win? I'm just look round, I'm like, do not even think about it.
Oh, God, I'd say that's there in your brain. Your dad running around painted in silver paint. These stories are all inside F1. No, Tommy would have loved to have been here with you today to have a little bit of a chat as well. Niamh McKenzie, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back to Ireland AM. Now we're doing Mexican food.
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah.
Jack is here. Jack O'Keeffe, of course, going to show us how to make pork tacos.
I'll try anyway.
Oh, no better man.
Good man yourself.
Good morning.
So I've got an issue with tacos because obviously they were on the Bake Off this year and it's a baking show and not a cooking show. But you're going to make me like them,
What
right?
were they doing with tacos in the Bake Off?
Thank you. That's my
Were
question.
they those? I nearly said.
They
those
just had to make
stupid hard shell tacos with ice cream inside them.
No, they just had to make the tortillas. That's
Ah,
why. No, they made
great.
actual tacos. Anyway, go on. What are we doing
Right,
today?
we're doing some really easy pork tacos, so everyone can do it. There's not that much complicated ingredients. A lot easier than Thursday's recipe that I did. Wait, and you saw that mise en place in front of me, and it was just a line.
Yeah, there was
of
like
white
25 million things to wash afterwards.
But it was an
so
easy
that was
recipe.
great.
Huh?
I know,
Yeah,
Jackie.
look at me whipping out the French
It's
and the
he
Italian wrists.
He wouldn't be saying that if Tommy was here, I'd tell you that much. I'd be like, what?
So look, to start this recipe off, I generally, as you know from me here and there, I rarely ever do and marinate overnight or any recipe like that. I'm all about, because I'm slightly schizophrenic or bipolar, I haven't diagnosed myself yet. But when I'm on the way home, I'll crave steak, then I'll crave something else, and I'll crave something else. I can't plan meals. I'm surrounded by food all day long. I can't do meal prep. I can't do any of that.
I think you need to diagnose yourself with something like that.
But this recipe is banging and it's class, and it only takes about 15-20 minutes to marinate, okay? So it's not that bad. Start off with a blender. If you don't have one, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And into the blender, we're going to add some chopped up garlic or garlic puree, whatever you have knocking around. And this is just to create like a lovely kind of Mexican marinade sauce.
Can I ask you a stupid question, Jack?
Yes.
If you're putting it in a blender, why do you need to chop it up?
Because I'm awkward.
Oh, okay, that's fine. No, I was wondering, was there some chefy reason
To be you to throw me off now, first thing in a Monday morning, like.
I wasn't intended that way, genuinely. I thought there was
You
a
don't,
secret
honestly, you
trick.
can chuck everything in.
He likes how it looks when it's
Yeah,
there.
That's fine. No, just
I
can
Right.
save time. Right.
And a very little quantity, and it mightn't blend.
Now
right?
you're talking, right?
Some chipotle that I got inside in the supermarket. So it's chipotle chilies in adobo sauce. You get them in a little glass jar in nearly every supermarket now.
Okay.
Right? Pop that in. That gives it your authentic hot chili flavour. Then you have cumin, coriander powder, and smoked paprika.
Okay.
And the smoked paprika gives it the effect as if you cooked it on a barbecue.
Gotcha, the nice
little
colour.
dash of whatever oil you want. I'm just using rapeseed oil, Irish rapeseed oil, but you can use olive oil. It's
Just a
perfectly
little dash.
fine. And then some orange juice and zest. The zest is very important because this orange on the skin on the outside is where all the flavour comes from.
Okay.
So just zest that in. You can use a box grater if you want, or you could just cut it off with a knife and blend it up. And sometimes, like on a lazy Sunday, I literally just chuck half an orange straight in and just let it blend up itself.
Is that normally it? Is that something you like to do, or is it what it's called for?
What, just chucking the orange in?
No, an orange in this sauce.
In Mexican cooking, orange
right,
is a
okay.
very common ingredient. So is pineapple, actually.
Gotcha.
Right? Pop that into the bin.
Oh,
And then
orange
some
and
lime
tequila.
zest and juice in on top of that. Just a bit. And again, same with the juice. I should have cut
That's
these.
your route into Mexican cuisine. Tequila is just out of curiosity.
I knew as soon as I said it out loud, I was like, this tequila's nicer with orange than it is
Oh
with lime.
no! Guess what song I have in my head now for the rest
There
of the
you
day?
go, have fun.
Tequila.
Good morning, everybody.
Right, all that's in. Pop the lid on it with a onion. So just some onion just to bulk it out a little bit.
Okay.
Pop a lid on. Give it a quick flick. Pour it into an oven tray or a big bowl or a plate or whatever you have.
And do you want it smooth or do you want it to have little lumps left in it? or
Little
does it
lumps, nice and rustic. It doesn't really matter. And then we have some pork fillet or tenderloin that I've just butterflied out into a nice thin sheet of meat. Now, you can ask your butcher to do this. The butcher behind the counter in most supermarkets, they'll more than happily do it for you if you don't like to get... A lot of people don't like handling raw meat. So just get your butcher to do it. It's perfectly fine. Or just cut straight down the middle and let it fold out. All it means is it just cooks a little bit quicker, right?
And you've gone with tenderloin. You're going fancy.
Yeah, tenderloin. Look, it's the most affordable, lean kind of tender meat that you can get. It's a lot cheaper than a beef fillet anyway. But if you had the time, you could use a tougher piece and let it cook for a longer, slower period of time.
And of course, you can do this with beef, with chicken. Is it the same sort of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Chicken breast is ideal with this, as you know, chicken thighs.
There we go.
More flavour, more better. Right, well, let's pretend I marinated this for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Hot skillet, or you can use a frying pan, or you can use your barbecue and bang it in. This, when you're doing this, turn on your extraction fan or your Cllr to full max. Because all that
There's
chili
that chili.
instantly goes
There we
into your
go.
lungs right away. You know, so we give that about 2 minutes on each side. get it nice and coloured, flip it over, and we pop it into the oven for a few minutes.
Okay.
While I have one in the oven behind me that I put in a few minutes ago, while this is cooking away, we're going to make all our condiments and get them ready, okay?
Okay.
So for a salsa, really simple. We have some ripe tomatoes that I've just diced up. Pop them into a bowl with some raw white onion, diced up.
Are you peeling the tomatoes or just leave them with the skin on everything?
Skin on everything, nice and rustic. Pickled jalapenos, or as we say in Cork, jalapenos.
Lovely.
Right? Pop them in as much as you want for spice. You know, if you don't like spicy stuff, put less in. Or don't put them in at all.
Jane Macker.
Lime juice in as well. Give it a zesty kick. And then some parsley or coriander, whichever you prefer. I know a lot of Irish people hate coriander. So I'm just going to throw parsley into this one for now.
I remember watching
It's genetic.
I watched the programme with the two Roux brothers, Albert and Michelle, arguing over some aspect of cooking, or discussing some aspect of cooking, and one of them refused to eat coriander. And I could never understand, A, how you could be a chef and not eat coriander, and B, what's wrong with coriander?
It's actually a genetic
But
thing.
there's a genetic thing.
I think it's 1 in 3.
No, there's not.
There is.
No, there's not.
All right, Mr. Etymology of Frisbee. There is. Go look up
There
here.
are some people who genetically don't like coriander.
It's in your genetics that
1
you
in
will.
3, I think, is what it is.
It tastes completely
You taste
different
so- you
to what
taste soap
coriander
when you
tastes
taste
like.
it.
Yeah.
Right?
This is like the people who can't taste cucumber.
Googling.
Don't
Start
believe it.
Google. I'm
Hang on,
telling you, it's a
getting
thing.
my phone. You talk among yourselves, Jack.
we move along. So then, there's a bang of chilli off of that. Right. Avocado, nice and ripe. Splash of lime juice, really simple. Squash it all in together, right?
Lovely.
Now, to grab the pork I prepared earlier. So when that pork is nice and brown, I just pop it into the oven. I always say a hot oven. That's anywhere from 180 upwards, depending on how much time you have. Look at that lovely charred colour. Right? Off the tray. And then we just chop it up nice and rustic.
Rustic is the word of the day. I'm
So
going
if you want to say
when I'm doing stuff that's messy, I'm
Thank
just going
God
to
for
call it
Jamie
rustic
Oliver.
from
He brought
now
us all
on. It's
rustic.
good. It's good.
So this is kind of like an easy take on a traditional Mexican taco called an al pastor.
Okay.
Which is the Mexican version of a kebab.
Right.
So it's on a kebab wheel, like you get your doner kebab on Harcourt Street at 3 in the morning. Very similar, only with Mexican flavours.
God, it's too early in the morning to be thinking about that,
Never
Jack.
too early, Mirren. Never too early.
God.
Think of a few years ago, we'd be only crawling out of coppers now at this time.
Jack, this is very hard to keep watching. Come on, put it in front of me. Come on, let's go.
Okay.
So get that pork onto the taco.
Okay.
I've just toasted those tacos off on the hot grill.
You keep going. We'll taste it during the break and tell
Absolutely.
everybody what it's like when we come back, because we are going to need to get to Derek in a second. He's going to be chatting to Europe's ultimate Frisbee champion. Stay with us. Jack knocked it out of the park. Now, Derek is out testing his freebie skills with the...
Freebie?
Freebie. With the... what did I say, freebie?
Freebie?
Let me try that again. Sorry, I'm distracted by the urge to eat the rest of this taco. Derek is out trying his Frisbee skills with the Ranelagh Ultimate Frisbee team. Who are you with, Derek?
Yeah, well, I'm trying my freebie skills as well, guys. Look, I got a free Frisbee. Anyway, welcome back down here to Ranelagh in South County. I'm joined now by the guys. Stephen, who would have thought that Frisbee was an international sport?
Yeah, very few. It's quite niche, I guess, and small enough in the country. But on the back of the success we've had winning European Championships, we're trying to get more exposure, obviously, and get more people playing in the country.
Now, as you mentioned, European success. Tell us about it.
Yeah, pretty phenomenal feeling. None of us kind of expected it going in. It's only the third time our club have qualified for the tournament in the 10 years we've been a club. So yeah, to get there, to get to the semis like we did last year, and then to win the whole thing was a phenomenal feeling. So we're still quite high on that feeling.
And there are the trophies there beside us. Leo has them.
Yeah, so Leo's showing them off for us. This is our All-Ireland Championship trophy, and this is the one we won then for the European Championships. We just got it engraved there for 2022.
Over in Italy. I'd say that was good fun.
Yeah, phenomenal.
20 lads on tour.
Yeah.
Ferdia, you're the coach. What's involved in training this European winning team?
Well, it's an incredibly high-level skill sport, so we've got to be training that all the time with our throws and catches. But as well as that, it's high-intensity endurance and sprint sport. So we're sprinting all the time, changes the direction, jumping all around. So quite intense the entire way through.
And a lot of skill involved as well.
Definitely, yeah. Accuracy is so important, particularly when it gets windy. I mean, the Frisbee will be flying all over the place. So you need to spend a lot of time, a lot of reps practicing your throws.
So today's the perfect morning.
Yeah, lovely morning now.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of the game itself then, what are the rules?
So you score in an end zone, it's 7 on 7, and when you hold the disc, you're not allowed to run, and it's a non-contact sport, but that'll probably go a bit higher the higher the level.
Yeah, I was going to say now, non-contact, that's a bit give or take, right?
Yeah, exactly. So an interesting part about the sport is it's very self-refereed, which means the players can kind of decide the level of contact that they like amongst themselves. So that's why you'd see at the international end, the teams would get quite physical with each other.
And you're always looking for new people, aren't you, Stephen?
Yeah, naturally. One of the biggest kind of recruitment drives for us is out of college. That's when a lot of people kind of discover this sport. So yeah, we're always looking for people to try something else out new. Ourselves, we all come from Gaelic football backgrounds, hurling, basketball, whatever have you, and yeah, this is a new sport to try out, I guess, if you're falling out of love with those ones.
And Ferdia, you took up the sport professionally because you went over to Texas.
Yeah, that's right. I got signed on a contract to play in the professional league over in America.
And what was that like then?
Oh, it was great fun. It was a lot of crack. I'm one of very few Europeans who's got that opportunity, so I feel really blessed to have that chance. But it was brilliant learning from some of the best in the sport.
And you were telling me before we came on air, this sport is huge in the States.
Massive, yeah. They've got millions of players over there. There's probably more players in America than there is in the rest of the world combined.
Yeah, you were talking about non-contact. Take a look there. Poor Leo's leg. You took a bit of a hit, Leo.
Yeah, some long-term cartilage damage from heavy toll of the sport. It's very intense, very athletic. So.
Okay. So, boys, I believe we've got a challenge coming our way. What's in store?
Yeah, we do. So accuracy, like I was saying, very important here. So what we're going to do is grab the frisbees, and we're going to aim for this hoop here through the goal.
Okay. So what's the point scoring system here?
So it's 1 point for hitting the rim, 3 for getting it through.
Okay. So once I think I'm going to need to take the jacket off.
Oh yeah.
Look, I've got my jersey on. Okay, here we go. All right. So
we got 1 minute on the clock.
Okay, come in a bit closer. Yeah, 1 minute on the clock here, right? So we've got to hit the rim. 1 point into
1 point for the rim, 3 for getting it through. Here we go.
So 3, 2, 1. Bit of support there.
Yeah, here we go, boys.
That's 3. Let's go.
Lovely.
Oh, let's go. Hup.
Nearly.
There we go.
There it is. 3 through already.
Oh, look at that. Oh,
that's 6.
Keep
them going. Fire them nice and fast.
I could hit my cameraman Mark here.
Lovely, 8. Great shots.
Oh, not too bad. Here we go.
Keep them going quick. Oh, 9 points, man.
And you've got,
hitting the rims.
Got the European Championships in Limerick next July.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The European Championships are coming up down in Limerick. They'll be on in the middle of July. Come down, watch all the national teams from Europe.
Look, I'm a natural at this. Oh, what's the score, lads?
Put your name down on the application. We'll see.
I'm very competitive.
13
you know
points.
Now.
Lovely.
There we go. And Stephen, can we say hello to your mum, Anne, who emailed us in?
yeah. Well, shout out Anne Jones.
We're nearly there.
Who got us the contact for this. Nice.
Okay. We're getting
you can see the fatigue is coming. The fatigue is coming. There you go. Steady it up. Nice. Keep it flat.
2 and 1 last.
Yeah!
Okay, what was the total? What's the total? What are we up to?
Totals 17, 18.
17, 16. I think I could join the team. What do you think, guys? There we have it. You can check them out online on their socials. It's Ranelagh
Ultimate
Frisbee.
Ranelagh Ultimate Frisbee.
That's where you'll find them all here. Thank you so much, boys. Yeah, and thanks, Anne, for emailing in. That's why they're here. Thanks, Anne. We love you. Back to you, studio.
Thank you so much. All those points hitting it off the rim and through the hole and everything. Fair play to Derek this morning. Now, still to come in the final hour of Ireland AM from outer space to the Australian jungle. We've got plenty more to keep you entertained, Anton. We'll talk to you shortly.
Well, you're welcome back. Lots more on the way between now and 10.
There certainly is. From soap star to space enthusiast, Dr. Niamh Shaw talks about the importance of space education in just a little while.
Film fanatic turned celeb specialist Brian Lloyd will be giving us the latest from the jungle. Any favourites yet, Brian?
We were actually talking off air. I'm allowed to say penis because Matt Hancock ate kangaroo penis and he ate a cow's anus. I am allowed to say that because I've used medical terms and have not used euphemisms. There we go. People are just spitting out their breakfast now. It's hilarious. I did ask. I did check.
Yeah, but the idea was like inter alia in the midst of other things.
Yes.
You might have to use the term. We didn't say during
Just
the
go
promo.
make it all about
Well, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know. But, like, yes, that's what happened. Those are my favourites.
He was in the House of Horrors last night, so we're going to be chatting all about that. A lot of jokes between that and the House of Commons and blah, 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 blah.
Hey.
So that is coming up. Thank you so much, Brian Lloyd. Looking forward to it. And Mandy Maher, I just want to apologise that we have to go from that to fashion. Are you okay, Mandy?
I'm holding it all together here at the moment, literally. But I'm going to be showing you some great looks this morning. And it's all about the cow neck. So it's all about, or not the cow neck, I should be saying the crew neck, I should be saying. Now even I'm thrown off at this stage. But it's going to, I've got some lovely knitwear coming up, some really beautiful pieces this morning.
Thank you very much, Mandy.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. A cow's on the brain for everyone now, Brian. That's what you've done. Disgraceful.
To bring us back down to the ground, Derek has been sharpening his skills with the Ranelagh Ultimate Frisbee Club all morning. Have they allowed you to join yet, Derek?
We're up high in the air.
Sorry,
no,
Derek.
Not yet.
Go on.
No, we're doing some welcome back down here to Ranelagh in South County Dublin, guys. Yeah, what a morning we've had here with the team, and of course a big shout out to the women's team as well, who are the 2019 European Championships. Gravity and Flame, two teams here in Dublin as well. Hi, Castrell's here this morning. Are you up for it?
Indeed. Good luck on that one. Now, a little bit earlier on, best luck, we were talking about Christmas, and there was this list of, as they do every year, I think since the day I was born, and I'm saying a long time before that, the top 10 lists of most wanted toys, and it creates a bit of a fuss and all that kind of stuff.
Big Track. Do you remember Big Track?
No.
Do you remember Big Track was amazing? Big Track was an 8-wheel programmable robot that you could make drive around your house. If you had Big Track, you were proper fancy. I always wanted one. I didn't have one, but I knew people who had Big Track.
Oh, you knew people who had it. I think people who had Buckaroo were always really fancy.
That was pretty cool.
That was
Do you
pretty
remember
fancy.
the Evil Knievel that you could spin up and that
Yes!
you click and you go boom? I want one of him.
I'd like that now, I think. But people are chatting about it. And Sandra says, we were talking about, I suppose, the sales that are coming up and the Black Friday events. I'm a sucker for a sale. Even though I know that most of the price cuts are not legit, I'm still waiting for Black Friday this year. The marketing teams have got me brainwashed. Even when I'm doing the weekly food shop, I love a yellow label. Fair play to you. I love a yellow label as well.
I remember, by the way, I Googled it. You're right. 30%
Coriander.
of people think it tastes like soap.
Yes,
Amazing. I never knew.
Jeans, baby.
There is a thing about yellow label. If you put 15% off on a product, you guarantee that its sale will increase by something to the order of 20%, except there are about 12 to 15% of people who know what it used to cost. So there's like a police group of people who remember prices, and but for them, we'd all be fooled by prices getting yellow stickers.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yep.
I love that. That is brilliant.
Tech saying we need to change the narrative around Christmas. It's become a massive retail holiday and everyone has lost the run of them. Like it always was, though, wasn't it?
I don't think it's anything
was.
new. We always say the good old days. It's always kind of been like that. Probably more money is spent now.
But he says there should be more emphasis on spending time with the people you love and being grateful for their company rather than gifts.
What if you don't like them?
I know, yeah, you can get through a day. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's dinner, TikTok. Here's a present.
What if you're like,
door.
the presents are distracting from the fact we don't want to do it? What time is Indiana Jones on?
I've got Trivial Pursuit.
What's going to happen there? That's what's going to happen. Debbie says, I honestly don't know what we did before online shopping. I get anxiety even thinking about braving the shops during the Christmas period. It's a godsend for having everything ordered and delivered to your door. I was in Dublin city centre this weekend on Saturday. It was bonkers.
Was it?
It was properly bonkers. Like I walked into a shop and I went, no, I'm gone. I'm out. I am out. It was...
Do they still do the post-Christmas sales, the Stephen's Day madness? Do you remember there used to be either Stephen's Day or the day after, places like Cllr's used to just go absolutely
Next, like,
bananas.
opens at 5 a.m. in the morning and that kind of stuff. That certainly was a thing, but now they kind of start the sales before Christmas, don't they?
Do they?
It's kind of what they have to do. Anyway, thank you very much for getting in contact with all of your messages this morning. We really appreciate it.
Coming up next, Dr. Niamh Shaw is going to drop by to talk space tourism and why looking to the stars could be the answer to the energy crisis.
Let's pollute the... Welcome back. Now, you know, Ripley from Aliens, move over. Our next guest may be not be battling rogue aliens, but she does one day hope to travel to the stars.
Please welcome scientist Dr. Niamh Shaw to the show. Niamh, how are you?
How are you doing? Lovely to talk to you.
Good. Happy Science Week.
That's it. It's back again, Science Week, which is, like, I want to talk more about it, but it is incredibly important because what it does is that it does bring children along and show how science can be interesting, fun, and not just a boring subject.
Yeah, and adults too as well. You know, it's a week where we kind of stop and we kind of say, right, what can we do to engage people who aren't who think that science isn't for them? So I'm always trying lots of new things, you know, all the time, because it's important. I think we live in such a technological world, whether you have mobile phones and it's getting more and more tech, and there's tons of jobs coming down the line, particularly in the space sector. So the more we can get people to, you know, to just start asking, what are you curious about, or just kind of build their confidence around it. And Science Week for me is a great week to do that.
Jobs in space doing what?
Oh, Anton, it's huge. Like, so even in Ireland already, there's a lot of Irish companies involved in space. Like, so, you know, we're members of the European Space Agency. So as that, we get to pitch for contracts and stuff so the European Space Agency might need a spare part. So an Irish company can apply for that, but also that there's research projects. The whole satellite industry is available. Artificial intelligence, there's one Irish company that's kind of leading the way in providing artificial intelligence for satellite companies so that, you know, they're taking lots of pictures. And so rather than kind of spewing down loads of pictures, which takes up, it's expensive, their artificial intelligence actually kind of scans through them. They got an award recently, Eubotica, by the European Space Agency. The James Webb Space Telescope. So that launched last Christmas Day, and this is like a big moment in global interest in space. So this is now giving us back images of our universes that we've never seen before. And so when they launched that on Christmas Day, on the very top of the rocket is the actual, you know, James Webb, and it was packed in. It was like almost like an origami puzzle to get it in. And so there's an outer casing called the fairing. And so they were afraid that when they would press the switch for the fairing to come apart and for the actual James Webb telescope then to be deployed and make its ultimate position in a Lagrange point, doesn't matter where it's going. They had to have a camera installed inside that was strong enough and that could show the actual, you know, separation and that everything was fine. And that was another Irish company called Railtra, and they were a startup, and they were given. ESA said, we're going to bypass the fact that we don't use startups because we love this company so much. So Ireland is doing really well in the space industry. So there are. That's just the top of my head.
And as you say, with James Webb and the pictures that we've seen come back, and it is this sense of wonder and that's been engendered. And I suppose we haven't seen that since the 60s and 70s in the space race and everything like that. And there is, you know, it seems more tangible. What do you make of the likes of Jeff Bezos and the space tourism and the popping up and the billions that's being spent on it?
Well, I think it's a necessary reality of any new wave of technology. This is something that seems to happen even in the aviation industry. You had people like Howard Hughes, wasn't that his name?
Yeah, Howard Hughes, yeah.
So he kind of, you know, he spearheaded like aviation. So, you know, you had this moment in 1969 where, you know, 2 people landed on the moon. And a lot of people involved in the space sector were inspired by that, which was the Apollo program. And so the billionaires come from that era. So a lot of people were very inspired by that moment, and it made them dream big. And so for people where money is no object, the next toy is being able to go to space. But in order for that to happen, what's great about it is it kind of paves the way for the general sods like us, because initially it's very expensive and then it'll kind of go down the line.
Can I ask something about that? I've been thinking about Howard Hughes a bit recently, and you will remember there was stuff like the Glomar Global Explorer where he was apparently doing deep sea mining, and we discover afterwards it was CIA money to recover submarines. And a lot of what he was apparently into for commercial reasons was big US defence spending and Central Intelligence Agency spending. Is there any chance the same is true of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, that there's actually just big government money pouring into them as a front?
I haven't a clue. You'd have to ask them. But why don't you just call them there, actually?
I can miss out you.
And while you're there,
I'll
ask
tweet
him
Elon.
if I can go up. Will you ask him if I can go up as well?
Has he not blocked you yet?
Where's your blue tick?
You're definitely going to be doing all that. With everything that's happening there, I suppose there's one thing that people are talking about now, and that is, like, we've kind of destroyed our own planet, or we're in the process of really destroying it. Let's look to space and see what we can do with them, and see where we can get our energy from. Is that's the thing that's actually been looked at now?
Always. The lovely thing about space is it's the next frontier. So anytime we are put in a situation where we are outside our comfort zone and we're in extreme environments, whether it was the Antarctic or the seas of the 1500s, the Antarctic was like the turn of the 20th century, and now we're at the age of, you know, where we're really exploring space. So anytime we're put in an extreme environment, we have to innovate new ways of living.
Yeah.
So what I love about space is it's made us come up with solutions that we can definitely apply down to every home on Earth if we're smart enough. So, you know, there's no air in space, right? So they have to have proper air filtration systems. They have to have water filtration systems, some of the best water filtration systems, because astronauts on board the International Space Station, when they go for a number one, that water gets filtered excessively and it becomes their drinking water 11 days later. So there's nothing stopping us taking that technology and applying it down
Who wouldn't
to
want to
Earth.
be an astronaut?
Oh, it's page one.
I mean, come on. That's what
Would you like to drink your own 11-day-old pee?
Your alkaline level is going to be fantastic.
I hate to do the segue on this basis, Niamh, but you have done something similar, at least in the... At least in how you've lived.
I
you did the Mars
I didn't drink my own. I didn't drink my own urine.
Okay, right. Good. Let's establish that at the outset. What did you do?
Well, I wish I had. No.
I'm so sorry. He's new around these parts, Niamh. That's terrible.
So, yeah, I was involved in a simulated Mars mission in the Utah desert about 5 years ago. It actually changed my life. I'm not joking. It really did. And so for 15 days, we lived as if we're on Mars, right? So on Mars, there's no oxygen. It's a carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere. So that meant every time you went outside, you wore a spacesuit. Not a real one, but it was like a nod to a spacesuit. And so it would take 40 minutes to put on and 40 minutes to take off. And then there's no shops, obviously, on Mars, and there's no kind of running water. So we were given like 100 or 200 litre drums of water, and we were given food, which was all dried food. And we lived that way for 15 days. And it was mad. Like after like 2 or 3 days, I'd completely adjusted. I remember one night, one of the guys was tidying his room and he brought out money. And it was only like 5 days in and I was like, money! Like,
What's
it's
that?
mad. You go a bit stir-crazy, obviously. But the really amazing thing was we only flushed the toilet for number 2s and not number 1s.
Good.
I'm
glad we brought it back to this. I'd hate not to end on this.
I've never forgotten that. And even now, when I brush my teeth, because we had limited water, I just go splat for my toothbrush. Like,
oh God, and Brian Lloyd's going to be here talking about I'm a celeb and stuff like that as well. What has happened to this show? Potty Mouth over here has done this. It is Science Week, which was a hugely important week. There is events running all over the country. You can find out everything online. You are going to be running Science Week live. So it's a live stream show that there's going to be transition year students who are producing and they're talking about science. People can find it online?
Online on the SFI Discover YouTube Week. Our first show is today at 2:45. I'm working with my old school, the St. Louis Secondary School in Dundalk. They've been amazing. They made everything. They made all the science reports. They're interviewing people. It's phenomenal. And the most important thing is we get to hear about why science is important to them. And they often get overlooked.
That's fantastic, because it is the students. They're the ones who are going to be the
they're our future.
Dr. Niamh Shaw, thank you so much for joining us, as always. I apologise for him talking about your movements. Can't bring him anywhere, lads. We'll be back with you in just a minute on Ireland AM. What do you like? Now, Mandy Maher is here to show us how to style crew neck jumpers. Mandy, good morning.
Good morning.
Is the crew neck not just a round neck jumper?
It is similar and they look the very same, but the difference between both is that the crew neck is actually a tighter fit, whereas the round neck is a looser fit.
So
That's the difference.
That's a round neck jumper?
It is. It actually is a round neck that I'm wearing this morning.
She's wearing a round neck jumper. We're going to see what a crew neck is now in just a minute, because we've got our first look today. Brian is our first look today.
Yes, we decided to bring in the men as well this morning, because it's also nice, because jumpers are absolutely massive on trend.
Hello, Brian.
We've seen a lot of these.
How are you?
My handsome goose, I keep calling Brian.
Handsome goose, Brian, you lucky thing.
That's what I always say to him. But we're starting off firstly with this beautiful wool coat. It's a matte and neat coat. All of this look is from Guy Clothing, and they're a fantastic menswear store in Tullamore. But I think this kind of a coat, I'm particularly loving the shade of it.
Beautiful.
It's a stunning colour grey, and again, like that, to me, this is a coat that you could wear all year round. I know, okay, it's a wool coat, but you definitely still wear this all year round, because it's quite light as well.
There's a lot going on, because you've got a jacket underneath it as well.
It actually isn't. It's actually an insert.
Oh, it's an insert.
And it is detachable, isn't it? Very clever. So it can actually give the illusion as if you have two jackets.
So it's for the warmth.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
They're the sort of things you often see at matches. You know, lads wearing them at matches.
Absolutely, and I'm loving it. And again, then if you wanted to wear just the jacket on its own, maybe with a suit, you could easily do so and just remove the insert if you wanted to.
Fantastic. We're going on to the crew neck jumper.
So this is the crew neck jumper. I kept all the actual crew necks quite simple this morning. I didn't overstyle them, but I'm loving this look. Again, it's a very much on-trend look, particularly for men. I think these type of jumpers are really fabulous. You could easily theme it if you wanted with a shirt, but I just
beautiful colour. I'm just saying, my Dad got one of these every Christmas.
Yeah, they're fabulous.
All right, Dad, here you go. Another blue jumper.
Oh, but they're very much on trend, very much on fashion, and we teamed up then with these great pair of jeans, as you can see here.
Are they denims or
they're slack, actually. They're a slack, and actually they're a dark grey. They come across as if they're actually navy, but they're a very, very dark grey, an unusual colour grey.
They really go well with the jumper, and then the shoes kind of just pick up on that as well.
The shoes are very trendy. I love these navy shoes, because to me, like that, they're fabulous with the trousers, but you could wear these with a suit as well. And it's lovely to think that men can wear something a little bit different from the traditional of the tan and the black.
Absolutely.
So these gorgeous navy work well.
Thank you so much, Brian. We're moving on to Daniela now for our next crew neck look.
Our next look is all from Cllr Boutique, available online, of course, a wonderful boutique in Naas, just out the road here. But again, like that, we're starting off with this gorgeous coat, and I just think it's beautiful.
Hello, Christmas Day. How are you doing?
Isn't it fabulous?
Gorgeous.
I'm loving it. It's a Kate and Pippa label, and it's absolutely, the quality is incredible. It's light, it's easy wear with absolutely anything. It has a lovely, as you see, belt detail there at the back, but a very chic coat.
And I do love what you've done with the scarf. That always just adds something. I love that bit of that style detail. And so do you have that pinned?
And I actually don't. It's actually sitting perfectly on her shoulder. But again, like that, it's about playing around with accessories. Don't be boring. You can wear it around her neck, which will be shown on the next look. But we decided to leave it draped on one shoulder to give that little bit of extra edge.
Okay, and we've gone with the beautiful red jumper.
Isn't this gorgeous? So this is our crew neck jumper.
Is that slit neck?
It is slightly, and it is, and you could probably pop it off one shoulder. We didn't want to do that. We kept it up. But again, like that, you could easily wear a blouse underneath this. As I said, we kept it very minimal on the tops this morning because we wanted the focus to be the top. It's a beautiful jumper. We left it styled outside, as you can obviously see, but what about these gorgeous pearl details on the back? Isn't it lovely?
Yeah,
just
really
add a little
gorgeous.
bit of feminine look to the outfit itself. And it is very much a Christmas Day outfit, I think this is, isn't it?
It's gorgeous.
Something you could definitely see nice and cosy.
Sure, with red, I just love wearing red all the time. Great with jeans, you're all good to go.
Absolutely.
Fine. Straight leg trousers, these are very smart.
Trousers, very, very smart trousers. Again, like that, easily could wear for work or wear at night time if you wanted to. But of course, obviously, this is more of a day look for me anyway, I think.
And the satin style boots,
and then
tucked in underneath.
The sock boots. I think sock boots are like a black dress. I think they're a must in every lady's wardrobe. I really feel they go with absolutely everything.
They look lovely in those kind of sock boots. The ankle ones are so good with the shorter style jeans that you have from the summer that you can keep on wearing then when you come into winter. Now, Ignace here with our next look today. We've got the scarf is on.
And we're staying with Cllr Boutique in Naas. And this time we styled it slightly different. We kept it a little bit more casual with the scarf, as you can obviously see here, and picking up all the colours. But what about this gorgeous coat?
Beautiful.
It's a stunning colour. Yeah. I love it. And they have these in a few colours as well. Again, like that, it's quite light. It's an oversized coat if you did have it on you. We just decided to leave it on the shoulder from a styling point of view this morning. It is slightly oversized, just so you know that.
Yeah.
But,
so again, in winter, you're wearing the knits anyway.
Exactly.
If it ever gets cold.
You can easily layer. Now, we teamed up, as you see here, with this beautiful two-tone scarf. It has the mixture of the creams and, of course, with that little bit of orange as well. But I'm loving the scarf. I actually love this. I think it's just beautiful. And it'd be lovely even just with a pair of white jeans and a pair of, or jeans, I should say, navy jeans and a white shirt. I think
it's really lovely. Smart. Really pops. And then kind of the batwing jumper.
The batwing style jumper, as you can see here again, has big pocket details you can see down the front. And then also, of course, then with the sleeve itself is a little bit tight, as you see, just on the forearm of the arm itself with the knit.
Really nice. And the trousers here, which are lovely, picked up with the kind of scarf, kind of differentiated.
It's lovely, and there's lovely pockets in these trousers as well. I think there's pockets, even. I think it's on there isn't actually, excuse me, I thought there was actually pockets in it, my fault.
Because I can't put my hands anywhere.
So sorry about that, I actually thought there was. As you see, there's a little slit just on the ending of those trousers, but those cigarette-style trousers are huge as well. Very, very much on trend. Finishing up there with these great heels. I'm bringing home these heels. I just think they're absolutely fabulous. Loving them.
I don't know how the hell you have any money on.
I don't. You don't make no money in fashion. Trust me, absolutely don't.
Brian is coming out for our final look today.
We're heading back to Guy Clothing in Tullamore. Isn't this fabulous as well?
Of gorgeous.
And I'm loving it. And I actually spotted earlier on that Anton is very much on trend this morning because he has crew neck jumper on. I've noticed, but he wore a shirt underneath.
He had a shirt underneath, he did.
Again, loving this knit jumper. It is not an itchy style jumper. It may look it because it's wool, but it actually is a really, really soft cotton.
The beige and then with the bits of blue and navy in it. So that means like it's going to go with absolutely everything.
It
greys.
sure does. I'm
Yeah.
loving this. It's different. And as I said, this is what's on trend, very much on trend. Teamed up then with these great check trousers. Again, really cool, edgy. They'll really look well.
And they'll also look great with loafers as it gets lighter. Like I love a fellow who likes to go for a daring trousers.
Me
Mandy.
too.
Yeah.
So do I. Don't be boring, as I do say. Let's get it out of the box, as I just say. And I'm loving these gorgeous boots as well. Really, really trendy boots. And again, like that, you can wear them with a multitude. But it's lovely to see a really fresh, good look, I think, on a guy. Because sometimes guys get a little bit stale with their wardrobes. These are all ideas for Christmas as well. So no excuses.
God, and there's no Alan and Tommy here today for you to shout. You're very stale with your wardrobes, lads. We're in the same thing. That's what Mandy's saying to the two boys who aren't here today.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
She's not saying that, of course. She's not. Mandy Maher, thank you so much for joining us today. Looking fabulous yourself. Now, move over, Tarzan. There is a brand new King of the Jungle. Brian Lloyd will be dishing the latest I'm a Celeb scandals after the break. Welcome back. We are 1 week into the brand new series of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and it's certainly not short on surprises. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from this weekend shows.
Stenchalada, and it is vomit fruit.
Is it actually a fruit?
Yes, it is.
It was. No, it was Jack. I think the answer is Elon Musk. C.
It is C.
Oh, he's bumping you again.
8. 9.
Not bad.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with 9. If Matt was to become camp leader, and if I feel like he's doing something that I don't agree with, I won't do it. If I don't want to do something, I won't do it. Ouch. Wow, look at that, a scorpion.
No way!
Stung by a scorpion.
Are you serious?
Joining us now to give us an update on all the goings-on from over the weekend, it is Brian Lloyd from entertainment.ie. Brian, it is a pleasure to have you here.
Is it?
It is a pleasure because it is fascinating this year. And since you were last here, we've seen Sean Walsh and Matt Hancock, of course, enter the jungle. Sean, a comedian, Matt Hancock, member of Parliament, of course. So what do you make of them on the show? What have they done to the dynamic?
Well, it's interesting. Sean Walsh, I think, has been kind of a bit of a non-entity. He's not really had the impact. Matt, it's just become the Matt Hancock show.
Yes.
And, I mean, he's been voted into every single trial by the public. He's now camp leader as well as a result of the competition that happened last night. So it's very much he is kind of dominating the thing, but I don't necessarily know if it's him trying to do that. I think it's the public are putting all the kind of emphasis on him. And they are kind of focusing on it.
I've seen some things about this saying it's become the Matt Hancock show, people giving out about it, but yet they keep on. It's them who are voting him to do it, therefore they have to focus on him. And there has been... obviously, this is to rehabilitate his image after being health secretary during the COVID scares where he broke lockdown rules.
Yeah. And I mean, they've talked about it as well. I mean, there was on Saturday night, I think it was, Charlene White confronted Matt Hancock about it. There was kind of like a group discussion about it. And Charlene White was like, you broke COVID guidelines. And his response was that, oh, no, I didn't break laws, I broke guidelines. And the reason I did it was because I fell in love. And nobody, and you're quite right, nobody bought it. I mean, Charlene White said, my aunt died during the first wave of the pandemic. I couldn't mourn her the way I wanted to. And then you're off there, having it off with a co-worker, having an affair and all this kind of stuff. How can you sit there and tell anyone that, you've done right by all this? And then afterwards he said, I'm just looking for forgiveness, that sort of way. Which is, I mean, the way he's going about this is absolutely galling because... No, but I mean, for the first time in history, nurses are going on strike in the UK, right? more than 2 million people are using food banks in the UK.
Okay.
So he's in there doing novelty eating challenges, and he's trying to ask for forgiveness from the British public when he was health secretary. Now, I mean, just the level of shamelessness that's going on here is just absolutely disgusting.
But it's the Romans and the Colosseum. Like that's what this has become as a way
It
to
is.
seek
Oh no, yeah,
retribution.
100%. Like there's something really, really dystopian about all of this, to be honest. Like, but I mean, it's just yeah, it has become the Matt Hancock show. And to be honest, I don't know how long that can persist because eventually people are just going to get bored of it.
But is it enjoyable? Like, is he's been voted in team leader of the camp, which is a first for the jungle.
Yeah, it's the first time it's happened this season. Yeah, so essentially it went to a competition between Matt Hancock and Mike Tyndall.
And the public voted.
The public voted for the two of them. Yeah, the public voted for the two of them.
But
yeah.
Who voted for? So Matt Hancock won. Did he win?
He won the competition. Yeah, you know, there was Mike Tyndall and Matt Hancock went into a competition and they had to pick a deputy. Matt Hancock picked Charlene White, the one that he had the kind of very spirited discussion with. Mike Tyndall picked Sue Cllr, who, you know, two of them have been kind of the mum and the dad of the group. But Matt Hancock won the competition. He won the contest. And, you know, that's fine. But I do think the reason why Matt Hancock was kind of voted into the leadership competition, if you like, is because I think the public are trying to put the cat among the pigeons. Now that he's going to be leader means he can't get involved in any of the chores. He has to set the chores for everyone in the group. And, you know, that is going to engender a lot of
anger.
Anger and ill will, because everyone's going to have to go off and, you know, cook and get the food, and they're going to have to, you know, gather up the sticks and all the rest of it.
But he's definitely going to be, I'll do that.
No, they can't get involved. They can't do anything. That's the whole point. When they're camp leader, they can't touch anything. And already you have Boy George there saying, like, if he tells me to do something and I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. And, you know, Boy George was saying it as well to Sean Maltz. It's like, oh, he loves this. He just loves being a leader.
So is that the thing? Like, is he liked by anyone in there? Because we know we saw there he was bitten by a scorpion. He was in his, like, tiny little scorpion thing. Like, he's having a hard time of it. Is he in any way, like, is there anyone who likes him inside there?
I personally think that everyone's tolerating him. I think that's it. I think everyone's tolerating him. I mean, okay, fine. Everyone's been nice and civil and, you know, like, it's hard to be kind of... it's hard to be uncivil when you're in that kind of environment, when you're in the trenches with someone and all the rest of it. But I think everyone's tolerating him. Boy George especially, I think, is just... You know, he was already writing a song about him, like, you know, that kind of stuff, like, oh, I'm never going to take any orders from a Tory and all the rest of it. Like, I do think everyone is tolerating him. And I think everyone is aware of how badly things have gone in the UK, and he has played a direct part in it as a politician.
Yeah.
So... You know, like, I mean, the odds are against him, put it that way.
According to reports, his spin doctors and PR people are trying to get more people interested in Boy George's former misdemeanours.
Oh, yeah, and like, that's completely
for something else, this is always about the journeys and the heartfelt stories. Sue Cllr.
Yeah.
What was
so she talked about her the fact that she was an adopted child, that she met her birth mother and all the rest of it. I have to say, I love Sue Cllr.
I think she's fab.
She's coming across so well. Like, she is so nice. And
she's lovely.
And she has that real, like, maternal vibe. Everyone loves her. Everyone kind of comes to her. Like, her and Mike, when they were, like, they're so... Like, I mean, I would watch a show with just Mike and Sue going around to, like, nice little restaurants in the English countryside.
They're so lovely.
They're so lovely.
And
like.
Babatunde.
And Babatunde.
As their child.
And Sean Walsh in there as well. Sean Walsh is very, very funny, I have to say. Like,
I think he's a funny comedian.
He is a funny comedian.
So he is there kind of doing stuff like that. I think Scarlett has been quite strong as well.
Sue, and Owen Warner as well. Like, I mean, look, God bless him. That lad is not blessed with brains, but my God, he is just very funny to be around.
So when we're talking about front runners, because I know, like, Alan's here, he absolutely adores Babatunde. He puts such a smile on his face.
Yeah.
But we're getting the different personalities now a week in. So who is emerging as front runners?
Well, I mean, I've seen different things. Like, I mean, the bookies seem to be favouring between Mike Tyndall and Owen Warner. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Tyndall won because, first of all, he's, you know, got name recognition with, you know, the English audience and all the rest of it. Second of all, he's a natural leader. You can see it. Like, people wanted, like, when they were doing the competition for camp leader, everyone wanted him to win. And I do think that, you know, he is, like I say, he is presenting a very, very positive kind of spin on this. Like, and he's doing well, like, and he's good crack as well. Like, Mike on the mic, like, come on, that's catchy.
He is good fun.
He's good fun. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be upset if he won. Put it that way.
That's good. Brian Lloyd, as always, thank you so much for joining us from entertainment.ie. I would also like to say a huge thank you to Anton Savage for being with me this morning. It was absolutely great crack. Also, in between the ads, we're having so much fun. On tomorrow's Ireland AM, Virgin Media reporter Rob O'Hanlon is going to be talking, swapping the newsroom for the Countdown studio. Plus, Jennifer Rock is giving your skin a pre-Christmas party glow. And we talk to Ireland's leading transformation coach about getting out of a rut. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.